It started subtly. I had been married to David for 7 years. On the outside, we looked like a perfectly content couple. 2 kids, a nice house, dinner with friends on Saturdays. But on the inside, we had drifted into that gray area where love becomes duty and conversation feels like ticking off chores. I wasn't lonely because I lacked people around me. I was lonely because the man I shared a bed with had stopped seeing me. Enter Caleb, David's younger brother. He had always been the fun uncle, full of charm and stories, someone who could light up a room effortlessly. He had just moved back into the city after a nasty breakup of his own. That first night he came over for dinner, I noticed him noticing me, really looking, not inappropriately, just attentively, something my own husband hadn't done in what felt like years. At first, it was harmless. We talked a lot about music, childhood memories, the stress of adult life. Caleb would come over often, and while David scrolled on his phone or zoned out to sports, Caleb would help me clean up or keep me company in the kitchen. I told myself it was just nice to feel seen again. No harm in that, right? Then one night, it happened. I had just put the kids to bed. David was away on a business trip. Caleb had stopped by to return something he borrowed from David. We ended up sharing a bottle of wine on the porch. It was late. The conversation turned deep, deeper than it ever should have. He asked me out of nowhere, "Do you ever feel invisible in your own life?" I froze. That single question undid me. Tears came without warning. I was embarrassed, but he didn't look away. He just listened. And when I turned to wipe my tears, he was suddenly there behind me, arms around my waist. I was startled, not just by the closeness, but by how natural it felt. I should have pushed him away. I should have said something. But instead, I leaned into it. For a moment, I let myself be held in a way I hadn't felt in years, not just physically, emotionally. That night, nothing physical happened, but something changed. An invisible line had been crossed. Over the next few weeks, things spiraled. Caleb and I became emotionally entangled. We started texting constantly, long, heart-spilling messages, sharing things we hadn't shared with anyone. The thrill of the connection mixed with a growing sense of dread. I knew this was wrong, so very wrong. But I also felt alive again. Then one night, David found one of the messages. My heart dropped. He didn't explode. He didn't yell. He just stared at me with a look I'll never forget, a mix of heartbreak and betrayal. From that moment on, everything shattered. Caleb left town shortly after. No dramatic confrontation, just silence. My marriage hit a wall. Therapy followed, painful conversations, apologies. Some days, I wasn't sure what I was more ashamed of, the emotional betrayal or the fact that I missed Caleb's presence even when I hated what we did. It's been 2 years since then. David and I are still together, but not without scars. We rebuilt slowly, brick by painful brick. The emotional affair forced both of us to confront the numbness we had been ignoring. I learned how dangerous emotional intimacy can be when it blossoms in the wrong soil. I often think about that night on the porch. I don't romanticize it anymore, but I understand it now. I know what it's like to be starving for connection and how dangerous that hunger can be if you're not honest about it. The silence between David and me after the discovery was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. He slept in the guest room for 2 weeks. We still ate dinner together. We still got the kids ready for school. We still looked like a functioning couple from the outside, but inside everything was fractured. He avoided eye contact. I couldn't blame him. Every time I opened my mouth to speak, guilt choked me. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was how much of it had lived in my heart before it ever lived in the world. And what haunted me more was the realization that if David hadn't found that message, maybe it wouldn't have stopped. Caleb didn't reach out. I think he knew the damage he'd helped cause. Maybe he thought staying away was the only thing he could offer as penance, or maybe he was just trying to escape the mess. Either way, his absence felt like its own kind of punishment. David eventually agreed to go to counseling with me. Our first session was brutal. He said, You didn't just cheat on me. You confided in someone you knew would cut me the deepest, my own brother. I cried. He didn't. And that scared me more than anger ever could. It was like he'd shut off all access to feeling because if he let even a little emotion slip, he might shatter completely. We talked about everything in therapy, how distant we'd become, how we stopped checking in, how I felt like a ghost in our home, and he admitted he hadn't realized how deeply I had withdrawn. He thought I was just tired, just overwhelmed, not emotionally dying in plain sight. There was no magic fix, no hug that made it better, just hard, ugly work. I deleted Caleb's number, blocked him on everything. It wasn't about David asking me to. It was about choosing the right thing, finally, even if it came far too late. Months passed. There were setbacks. I'd catch David staring at me in the dark as if still trying to figure out who I really was. Trust isn't something you get back with flowers or apologies. It's something you rebuild moment by moment with patience and consistency. One day he touched my hand across the kitchen counter. Not out of habit, not to go through the motions, just a small, warm moment of connection. And I wept quietly while making coffee. Because it was the first time I felt like he saw me again. Even now, we're not perfect, but we talk. We ask the hard questions. And when things feel off, we don't wait for a third party to step in and fill the gap. Sometimes I still feel haunted by what happened. But that's the price of healing. You carry the weight of your mistakes, not to punish yourself, but to remember the cost of losing your way. And to never go there again.